everybody, it's Alex. Welcome back to my weekly Game of Thrones review. And Luna's back too. Say hi, Luna. She climbed up in my chair. I'm no longer sick, but my allergies have been giving me a lot of trouble the last few days. So if my voice sounds a little weird, that's why. So sorry about that. But anyway, let's get into it. So, we start out in Marine, and, well, outside of Marine, technically, I guess, and it looks like maybe a little romance is brewing between Missandei and Grey Worm. Obviously, his lack of testicles could prove a little unhelpful should they pursue a relationship. But hey, it's not all about sex, right? Right. Although speaking of which, you notice I am dressed like a lion today, and this is in honor of Jaime Lannister continuing to look fine, despite my inner Stark, which is yelling at me a little bit right now, but I'm a lion today. But anyway, Missandei Grey Worm, it's cute, it is. And he seems like he is a very, he's a good motivational speaker. He goes in there and he's all like, hey, I've been a slave my whole life, and now I'm hanging out with the Khaleesi. So, hey, have some weapons. Go kill your masters. Let's do this. And it works. So, then Bronn and Jaime are fighting with swords again, and Bronn puts Jaime in his place in regards to Tyrion. And so Jaime finally goes to visit him, and we learn that you should never talk about Jaime's incestuous relationship with his sister, or the fact that, all her children are his, because he just doesn't want you to go there, okay? He already knows, so just don't talk about it. But it is nice, to see them together again and, making jokes despite how grim the situation might be. And, it's kind of a turning point for Jaime. I mean, he's had quite a few turning points, but, this kind of sets some things in motion for him that I think are really going to be good for him in the long run. At least it looks like it that way now, so fingers crossed. And then, we find Sansa and Littlefinger on the boat. We find out they're on the way to the Eyrie because he's going to marry her aunt. And that's going to present a whole slew of fun little things that it's going to deal with. Although it looks like they're going to keep her as Sansa, and it's not too much of a spoiler if I say that they pretend she's someone else in the books, is it? If it is, I'm sorry. Read the books. But, it seems like she's gotten smarter, over her time. She was just, silly, flighty Sansa who thought about nothing but, gallant knights and pretty dresses. And now, she's lived a little. She's a married woman. She's seen the horrid awfulness of the Lannisters, and she knows that, it's time to start using her brain for something else. And she is. She's making deductions. She's telling Littlefinger how things are, and, he's like, well, yeah, And she finds out that, not only is he still creepy, he's good looking, but he's creepy. He's so much creepier on the show, I feel like. I don't know if it's the voice or what, but he's not really this creepy in the books. To me, anyway. But we find out that Olenna Tyrell was the co-conspirator in Joffrey's death. We find out this from Olenna and not from Littlefinger, but I told you, if you look for small little clues, you know who it was. Her fingering Marjorie's necklace when they're discussing things should have, really reminded you of things that happened a couple episodes ago. So, there you are. Who knew, right? But speaking of Olenna Tyrell, we have more awkward sex talks with grandparents. She's all like, oh, your grandfather was supposed to marry my sister, but then I went in and, we did a little something, and he wanted some more of what I had, so there was no marriage between them anymore because I left him unable to walk. That's weird. That is weird and creepy. Why would you talk about that with your granddaughter? I would rather, rip out my own ears. I would pull a Van Gogh and cut off my ear. I would cut both of them off rather than hear my grandmas telling me about, their sexual experiences with my grandfathers. Like, no. Just, no. Please. No. And then Marjorie tries to seduce Tommen in, like, the most awkward way ever. Like, he's all like, oh, is that you, my cat, Sir Pounds? And then she's like, oh, it's me. And he's like, you're not supposed to be in here. And she's like, well, we're going to be married, so we should get to know one another, don't you think? Let's keep secrets from your mother. And then, like, she acts like she's going to kiss him, and then she doesn't, and then she leaves, and he's just kind of like, Jaime and Brienne are adorable, and he gives her a sword, his sword, the Valyrian steel sword that his father made for him from Ned Stark's sword, and armor, and Pod, because Pod needs protection, and Jaime doesn't want Brienne to be lonely, and it's really very sweet. I mean, what girl wouldn't want her very own squire? And Pod gets Tyrion's axe, and he's so excited, and then, okay, like, seriously, one of the most intimate scenes I've ever seen on the show was when Jaime asked Brienne to name the sword, and then she looks at him, and she's like, Oathkeeper. And, like, the look in both of their eyes is just, like, it's so tender, and it's so sweet, and you just know that they care about each other so much, and he's just so touched that she's so concerned about his honor and keeping his promise, and it's just, like, the freaking cutest thing that has happened on the show in who knows how long. Also, Sam, totally in love with Gilly. Like, if there was ever any doubt, like, there is not any anymore, because I mean, the only times that Jon has been tempted to run off from the Night's Watch have been when his family has been in danger. And, now that Sam is concerned about the wildlings coming, he's all like, I have to get her, let's go get her, I'm gonna leave. Sam's got it bad. And then, Jon, he would also be a really good motivational speaker. Like, I feel like he and Grey Worm could, like, go into business together, just going around Westeros, giving each other motivational speeches. They would make a ton of gold. Like, people listen to these boys. And then we find out what's been going on at Craster's Keep, since poor Commander Mormont died. And it's not pretty or good. I mean, the guys are, like, raping and beating Craster's wives / daughters / granddaughters / all that incest stuff. And that's expected. But I didn't expect to see anyone drinking out of Commander Mormont's skull. I wanted to vomit a little bit. It was not good. And then I was just like, oh, that poor little baby. Like, just left alone to scream. And then poor Ghost. Like, I didn't even realize that Ghost was still there. Like, I don't think... Like, okay, like, a lot of what happens, like, in that ending part did not happen that way in the books. But poor Ghost, he's so sad, like, locked up in this cage, and that jerk is like, you want some water? And, like, pours it where he can't reach it, and Ghost just wants to rip his throat out, he does. And then, Bran, he slips into Summer after they hear the baby, because he wants to see what's going on, and then Summer gets hurt, but not before he sees Ghost. And then Bran's like, Ghost, my brother's wolf is there, and then, like, they go out, and they go spy on them, and then they are caught, and finally Bran's like, I'm Brandon Stark, and they're like, oh, Jon Snow's brother, this got interesting. But they also said, okay, like, they knew Bran was nobility, obviously from his clothing, and they said Jojen and Mira were all fancy. Like, Jojen and Mira do not look fancy. I mean, like, they don't look like normal Westerosi people, but they look more like wildlings than nobility. So I don't understand where all this fanciness is coming from. Like, is this dude on crack? But, okay, the cool part was seeing what happened with the baby. Because, like, in the books, there are only certain characters that you see viewpoints from. And so it was really cool to see, what happens with the White Walker. And he goes and he takes the baby and then, like, he lays him on this ice pedestal thing. And another White Walker comes up and picks him up and, like, touches his face. And the baby gets, like, the frozen blue White Walker eyes. And it's just like, whoa. Like, is that, like, how they've been building their little White Walker army? Like, not even just using just dead people, but, like, using live people and just making them White Walkers? Like, how does this even work? Like, what kind of magic is this? Like, what is going on north of the wall? Like, legit. It's blowing my mind, is what it is. Like, but it was really, really cool. And Arya is back next week, and I can't wait. Because Arya plus the Hound equals maybe the best buddy comedy that could ever grace your television set. And someone needs to jump on that now. But I'm super excited. It was a really good episode. I mean, they're all good. You know, who am I kidding? But I loved it, and I can't wait to find out what's going on next week. And I'd love to hear what you thought down in the comments. And I will see you next week. Bye!